Hi, I'm Mark, producer of Roundtable, the TV series born here in New York City at the legendary Manhattan Neighborhood Network Studios. The exchange of ideas is important, and that is why we bring to you the following presentation. Please watch.
Hello, and welcome to Single Shot Show at Manhattan Neighborhood Network's Roundtable. Tonight we're going to be talking about experimental photography, its role in the media at large, and especially about experimental photography which is being produced by collaboration. And in order to discuss it, we invited a brilliant photographer and an artist who created a very special project on social networks, Fernando Monzon. Hello, Fernando. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll talk about your project later. Let's start with just getting to know a little bit more about your art. So, as I understand, your photo composites are a result of combining several of photographs of your production. Part of them actually are photographs of other people. We'll get to it later. But how did you get to this particular direction, how you decided to go into experimental route of photography?
Well, I started as a painter, and I got to a point where I said I want to try a little different medium, but still be artistic. So I picked up the camera, I started taking pictures, and I felt that it needed a little bit more than just the normal street New York pictures. So I said, let me combine it with a little bit more of the artistic view of it. So when you view it, it's more of an artistic view.
So from a painter point of view, photography, as we know it now, seems to be a little restrictive.
Yeah.
I personally feel the same way, and I do believe that right now we live in true exciting times. For me, transition from painter to photographer have a very special meaning. I always use those two medias as example of what is happening with photography now. In the end of 19th century and beginning of 20th century, painters was going through what we photographers going through right now. Their place on the market was actually shrunk by photographers, and the demand for realistic painting was much smaller than it was before. And as a result, in my opinion, of that, all the styles we enjoy and all the movements we enjoy right now started to emerge, starting from impressionists and expressionists and going all the way to abstract painting, which was your domain.
Yeah.
So I do believe that right now we're going through the same process in photography, resulting in several things. As a result of several things, first of all, probably technology. Doing something like this with film was, if not impossible, but extremely hard. So there were several people who was doing it. We had some of them in the studio.
Yeah.
But in digital world, flexibility that is offered by our tools is really amazing. So tell me a little bit about how the process is going. Do you have an idea first, or first come the images?
Well, yeah, basically it starts with when I first take the image, and then I start looking at different ideas that I come up with, and then I have the collaboration with someone, for instance, and then from that creation it comes about because of the visual that I'm working with, and that evolves into something different.
Oh, so it's actually also part of it is communication, and part of it
social media has a very important thing to do.
I was saving this part for later, but we might as well move into this project now. It's indeed a very interesting project. As I understood you from our preliminary discussion, you actually communicate with people on social networks, females mostly, and they are providing you with the images in order to incorporate them in your works.
Yes.
So that actually is where you talking to people and actually learning about their personality.
Yeah, that's what it.
So it becomes part of the story.
Yeah, and each model has a different brings something different. So that will bring a different painting, let's say.
Interesting.
To me.
So would you like to give me a couple of examples, maybe without names, just on in generalities?
It starts with like we were talking about social media, and you have followers and people you correspond with, and internationally, that's how it started. It started with me having a photography show. I met some models, took some pictures, and I said, "Would you mind if we collaborate?" And they said, "No, why not?" So it started there, and then it just started picking up on social media really fast. And that's where I've been lucky to work with good models, photographers that give me all the space and all everything that I need to create this image.
Well, that's actually very interesting. And there is one big division in photography, which not a lot of people thinking about, but half of the photography is focusing on the visual component, and another half of photographers is focusing on narrative component. And in case of such project, the finalized visual basically can be based on how the specific image you received look, or how do you feel personality of the model is. So what prevails for you?
Excuse me?
What prevails for you? What is more important in the way you create it?
I want to capture the beauty that the model, the subject is that is collaborating with me. I want to show I want to show New York also. That's part of it. That's a big part of it. So I want to I want to show them. I want to incorporate New York and the individual that I'm working with.
Oh, most of the images you're using, as I noticed, are either domestic or studio shots. Very few of them are obviously lit by the outdoors lighting.
Yes, yeah.
So, is there any significance in combining outdoors of New York with something domestic and to a degree probably intimate?
I guess it starts with an idea, and then that idea it evolves from what I'm feeling at the moment. Just like in a painting, when you make a painting, it's you're feeling something, you're feeling inspired about something you saw. So when I see the picture of the collaborator, it just opens up these different ideas, and that's where it comes about when I mix it with my daily surroundings that I take the pictures of.
Interesting. Well, in a way it's similar to a dreaming process, but since you mentioned it, it's actually, for me, the process of painting was extremely different from process of photographing, because no matter how, no matter what, unless we're talking about ultra realism where you have already photograph on top of which you paint, you're always starting from a scratch, you're starting from a blank canvas, piece of paper, whatever your media is, and in the beginning everything you have in your head. Photographer always starting with something we saw. And in this collaboration, you're somehow returning it into the domain of painting by actually starting from a blank page on which you incorporate this image as a representation of your dreams, I presume.
Well, I like to say that every day to me, when I walk outside and I wake up every day, is a canvas every day.
Oh,
that's where I get my ideas from. So every day, whatever the daily that I see, everything, I interpret it in a certain way. I look at it in every aspect of the beauty.
Wow. So beauty seems to be an underlying motive of what you do artistically in general.
Yeah.
So what beauty means for you?
Beauty means for me, you have to open your mind, and you have to open your eyes, and open your soul to really feel what the beauty that you're seeing and you're viewing, and that you want your viewer to see and to feel what you feel.
Well, it's actually a very complicated question. I noticed that some of your works have some pretty morbid motives, and I noticed some of the entourage that actually correspond to that. So, how does it?
Well, I'm a tattoo enthusiast. I have tattoos, and a lot of the models that I work with, they're tattoo fanatics, or people that are involved with that. And I like in particular when you see I have my skull rings. I see beauty in that also. I don't see it more like a morbid thing.
Well, indeed, skull is one of the most beautiful objects you can imagine. It's finalized in its simplicity and yet complexity, of course. Visually, it's very interesting. I was just talking about the standard set of associations people have with specific objects. And in general, we always work with the set of associations, if you think about it. When we create the final image, especially if you have as much control as you have in your works, you have to work with what a person who doesn't know what was going on in your head would actually see in the result. I mean, I don't know what is the significance of the viewers' opinion.
Yeah, well, usually I'll take a couple of extra edits and I'll show them, and then we'll both agree on something that we both like. So we both visualize something, and when we have the idea, then we take it from over there.
Oh, I had no idea that this collaboration is going actually so deep. I was just under the impression that the participation of the model is by submitting the initial work, but you're actually working with them all the process.
Yes, they're very involved. I will show them, and I'll see what their social media is like, and try to get an idea so I can give them a little bit of them with my idea, not just.
Oh. This is amazing. We'll get back to talking about your process a little more after the break. Hello, this is Alex IG from Single Shot with the next single trick. Today we're going to be talking about uneven lighting. More often you have to deal with just one strong source of light. The strongest one, of course, would be the sun. And when it happens, half of your object is lit very brightly and another half is very dark, just like my face right now. Is there anything you can do about it? Sure. You can have professional lighting equipment, you can have professional light bouncing screens and many other things. But the simplest and easiest thing you can use, especially if you're doing it in a casual environment, is a regular piece of paper. Put it right against the direction of light, and you will get the source of light balanced and your light being just right. Alright, we're back. So we was talking about the process of creating artworks and the process of collaboration. So is it a lengthy process? How long it takes to create a work like this?
Well, recently it's been going pretty well, pretty quickly. I've been getting the ideas really fast, and I guess it just it progresses and it gets a little, I don't want to say really easy, but it works pretty well.
Oh, nothing is ever easy about art. That's actually common misconception people who are not artists have about this process, but indeed it can get quicker.
Yeah.
So the ideas you're trying to show, they are all connected to beauty, and they all connected to New York. As you mentioned actually during the break, you are a New Yorker, and I presume this city also have its own significance for you in this direction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, in Manhattan especially.
Yeah, Manhattan has a big significance for all the artists. As again we was discussing before, that's the place where if you want actually art to happen, that's the place to make it happen. Unfortunately, all 5 boroughs are still trailing.
Yes.
But it's all possible. And by the way, you mentioned that some of your models have tattoo. It's actually a very interesting situation. It's actually a work of art that is positioned on a model who is positioned on your art. So it's like a 3-level art.
Yes, yeah. like layers and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it actually becomes to be layered. Well, maybe one day there would be four. Well, and since you're a painter, it's actually another interesting thing we didn't discuss on this program. How does photography feel to you comparing to painting in terms of comfort with making it work for you?
Well, it has one thing in common is the mood. The mood has to be, has to be positive, and if you have a vision for it, it doesn't matter what medium you do it at. So, yeah, and for me, photography is captures the moment, and then I capture the collaboration with the moment of the model and what she's portraying in the picture, and then that's how it evolves.
Oh, yeah, but actually I always have great respect to those who decided to actually move from painting to photography. It's indeed not an easy move. In fact, the truth of the current situation, it's much easier to bring around and get successful works that was painted than photography. Well, besides everything else, due to these guys.
Yeah,
unfortunately, the emergence of high-quality cameras attached to portable devices created a situation when a lot of people just think of photography as something that is not art-worthy and by itself have very little value. No matter how skilled and proficient it is, it's the direction in which it's going. We still have our old masters of black and white photography, who nobody can touch, but when it comes to everything else, it becomes tougher and tougher every day, and that's why I do believe it's very important for artists like yourself to actually promote experiment in art and to expand our horizons, and also to bring colors in it.
Oh, absolutely.
It was my personal issue with photography when I started to realize what is expected from a photographer, that no matter what you do, if you make it black and white, somehow it's assumed to be more professional and more artistic.
Oh,
and it's still so up to this day, and probably will be so for at least a little while. Well, depends how well we're going to fight it.
Yeah, it depends on, because the technology keeps improving, and it just, you have so much different spectrums now to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we still have this situation when described above as what expected from art photography, and working on changing it is actually something important and something that will not come easy, but I do believe that we have a chance to succeed for several reasons. One of the reasons is a narrative in imagery. Works like the ones you create actually have narrative that you control, not the reality that controls narrative that it presents to you. Of course, photographer always captures it.
Yes, absolutely.
But in this situation, by combining several images, you are declaring the control over what a person will finally see.
Yes.
In photography, no matter what you do in traditional pure photography, your biggest tool is just cropping the image, just taking from the frame you captured the part that you believe is the most important, and there is always, of course, a limitation to that.
Oh, absolutely.
But here, instead of subtracting, it's possible to add. And this addition is actually a very interesting process. So aside from this social networks project, what else are you working on?
Well, right now I'm doing these collaborations right now at this moment.
So this is the main thing.
Yeah, right now that's what I'm basically focused on right now.
So where do you think it's going to be going? Do you have any specific theme and mood created there, or it just, as we mentioned before, beauty?
Well, yeah, it depends on the mood, what inspires me at that moment. Like I said, every day to me is a brand new canvas, and that's the way I look at it. And what comes about during what I saw at that moment, that day, and then I try to capture that as best possible that I can.
Wow, that's actually the most creative approach you can take, but usually if you're doing it for a while, and as I understand you was doing it for about a year at least, right?
The collaborations?
Yes.
The collaborations, yeah, almost about a year now.
Yes.
As of now, I worked for over 50 50 people have collaborated with me.
Wow, that's actually an impressive number. Besides artistic part in terms of organization and in a way creating a small community of people who participated in one cohesive
And that's
thing.
a great way to go international also, to work with all these international models. Most of the models I work with are all international.
So the individuals who provided you with the images, they're actually professional models who work in fashion industry.
Yeah, majority of them are. But I could take a picture from a selfie, and see something in it, and just create it the best that I can.
Well, it's actually very interesting. You mentioned before that there is a connection to fashion in this project.
Oh, absolutely. And that started is a funny story. It started mostly because I worked with a couple of the models, but it started more towards when just during the holidays, during the season, I saw a couple of the windows, Bergdorf and all these windows, and I just got an idea of combining the fashion of New York and like I said, whoever's collaborating with me, and bring that the best that I can.
Oh, so basically it's a combination of fashions you can see in
Everyday
storefronts.
fashions. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's interesting. Well, that's another way of liberating photography from what is expected.
Yeah,
you actually see a model and a fashion, but they actually separated.
Yeah, it's a tricky. It's tricky,
Oh,
but I try to make it work as best as I can, and I think that the individuals that I work with have always been great, and I've been lucky.
Well, indeed, the results are astonishing, and about the colors. Most of those works are very vivid, very bright colors.
Yes, well, that goes with my abstract paintings. That's what I try to bring when I do the finishing piece, is try to bring a little bit of maybe a color or something that will create the mood.
Oh, I'm actually now curious to see where you were starting. Can you at least tell me what was the color palette of your paintings? Was it bright or dark?
Yes, my paintings were very bright. I started more like we all emulate some other artists when we paint, and I started Basquiat was somebody that was a big influence in my painting.
Oh.
Pollock was another influence too. And as time progressed, every artist picks up something, and then it started becoming my own. And I always saw that big, bold colors.
Well, we'll talk about it after the break. Hello, this is Alex AG from Single Shot with another single trick. Tonight I want to tell you a little bit about post-production. There is one feature in Photoshop and many other photo editing programs that being used scarcely. That's channels. And there is only one reason why it is so. Nobody understands what it is for. Well, not nobody, but a lot of people don't. So when you see an image just like this, you are getting a channel that. And that's very counterintuitive, because you actually supposed to be seeing this. 3 separate sets of color, not of grayscale. So if you would think of each channel as specific color, for example, of red being red instead of grays, blue being blue instead of grays, and green likewise, you'll find channels very useful for editing. Back. And as I was saying before the break, I definitely can see Basquiat influence in your works. I'm talking about the photographic work, of course. And during the break, you was mentioning that there is another form of art that has serious influence on how you create your photographs. So let's talk a little bit about the most abstract one, music.
Well, yeah, music. I used to go to concerts all the time, and each musician brings something different to the table, and I guess that's how every person that I work with brings a different thing to the artwork.
Wow, so the musical influence actually directly correlates with the work. You basically use the tune you've heard recently in a creative process, right?
Yes, yes.
Wow, that's actually very interesting. I always was wondering how it's possible to convert one into another, because
I like to say I like to combine the music, the art, and the fashion together, and infuse it together.
wow, that's actually extremely interesting approach, and the results are definitely astonishing. And but about the music, so how you actually managing to convert something as abstract as sounds to something as concrete as visual image?
I guess it's the lyrical music of what brings the idea, and it evolves with the mood of the music. So the different music will bring out something different.
Wow, that's actually, so basically the mood is supplied by the music, the narrative is supplied by New York streets,
Absolutely.
and the general feel and the direction is supplied by collaboration by another individual, and always different individual for every new work.
Yes, and that's how it changes all the time.
Oh, it's a pretty broad collaboration, collaborating with music, and to a degree probably with a musician who played it.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's a big thing. I couldn't do it without the three. I couldn't do it. That's a big part of it. It's the biggest part of it. That's what it is. Yeah.
Well, the combination is indeed working very well. And just to conclude what we were saying, as I said, we definitely need to look into this direction, and the approach you taken is, in my personal opinion, just as well as in yours, I believe it's future, and we can try and hopefully succeed in making it to be mainstream.
Absolutely. You just gotta open up your eyes and open your heart, and it opens up boundaries. It just keeps going.
Okay, so let's hope that all those boundaries will be open for our old-fashioned and rigid media, thanks to individuals like yourself. Thank you very much, Fernando.
Thank
it was
you for
a
having
pleasure.
me. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I hope you found that worth watching as much as I did. I'm Mark for Roundtable. Thanks for watching. See you next week.